If you're not thinking about how does customer X or industry X leverage AI to transform and grow, like you're not doing your job. That's just sort of where we're at the moment. If you're not obsessing about like where things are headed on behalf of your customers and prospects, like that's a problem.
Welcome to Built for HubSpot, the series where we're exploring the stories of the companies who are winning and building a competitive advantage by going deep in the HubSpot ecosystem. Today, we're joined by Brian Garvey, the co-founder and CEO at Profoundly and former VP at HubSpot. We're going to get into all things building and scaling ecosystems, what Brian thinks is most critical for companies in the HubSpot ecosystem in the age of AI, and everything that he's learned across his journey from AWS to starting his own company now. This series is presented by Ampersand, the deep product integration platform that is enabling the best startups and AI agents to build deep integrations without having to manage complexity and maintenance at scale. Let's get into the conversation.
I cut my teeth on ecosystems at AWS. I guess I would have kind of three persistent lessons that have sort of remained true across AWS and HubSpot and now Profoundly. I guess the first thing that I would share is that I really believe that meaning matters. And what I mean by that is an organization's mission really makes a difference. Its deeper purpose, its reason for being, and so on. I think that really has an impact on the organization's ability to truly scale. I don't mean just like grow. I mean like massively scale, exponentially scale. And I think that's because people do their best work when they can identify with what it is that the underlying platform and organization is attempting to accomplish. Like they can see themselves in it and they can know their own why for why they do it day in and day out. If you can figure that out, it really provides a lot of tailwinds to sort of growth and scale. And it inspires a lot of commitment and creativity, and resilience is part of scaling. It aligns individuals with the bigger picture and why everybody is doing what they're doing. In terms of what that meant for me, like, I think that this is hindsight's 2020. I don't know that I knew it in the moment, but like, for AWS, for me, it was really about what cloud was doing to transform what was possible in terms of cancer research, which means a lot to me personally. Way back then, like what AWS was doing and what cloud was doing was essentially like revolutionizing what was possible with clinical trials overnight. Like things that used to take months took hours. Literally, with a product they called Spot. It literally transformed what was possible in that moment. And it wasn't the only reason that I joined AWS, but it was a big one. And it was, when things are difficult, as they often are in scaling platforms, like it was one of those things that continued to remain true and gave me a lot of energy when things were tough. Same thing at HubSpot, right? For me, it was always about like the helping piece in the mission to help millions of organizations grow better. That always really resonated with me and was deeply motivating to go out and build and help organizations grow better. I think it continued to make a big difference for years. And now I think at Profoundly, it's even more personal, of course, for me as a co-founder, but I truly believe are helping customers and experts thrive. Right? Sometimes literally helping people put food on the table for their families on both sides, customers that are growing their businesses, entrepreneurs, and also experts who are there helping them every day. That's meaningful to me. And I think it makes a big difference in terms of driving scale and enrolling the type of support you need to like exponentially grow. So the first one for me was meaning matters.
Yeah, I'm really curious to sort of dig into that a little bit. How much do you think comes from a founder who has a big vision and sort of on day one, they're like, this is the mission, this is where we're trying to go, this is where we're trying to launch the rocket to, versus something that you develop over time, especially in a time when everything seems like it's changing. How do you think about that? Not necessarily having it figured out on day one, or is it actually that critical that you know what it is on day one?
I think it's pretty helpful to have a sense of that fixed point on the horizon that you're working towards, like have come from a good place and sort of be headed in towards a good place. It's like launching a rocket, right? If you're a millimeter off on the launch pad, you're miles off by the time you reach the moon or Mars or whatever. Sure, you can course correct along the way. And if you don't get it right from the beginning, like it's not the end of the world, you can adjust. But I do think like if you're thinking about things to get right, your why is a pretty good one to invest energy in. Maybe it means different things to different people, but I think it's really helpful.
I think that especially having something like knowing your why is such a human thing, it doesn't change too much, right? Like you mentioned, it gets people both who are potentially working on that mission to buy in, but also resonates with the folks who are on the other side of the fence, who are on the partner or the customer side.
Yeah. I also think it impacts who you bring in to help you scale and do the thing you're going to do, right? If you've got a mission to help do good in the world, you're going to bring people in that resonates with and that you want to work with and so forth. So I think it matters. The other lesson or lessons, if you're up for it, I think the other thing that was meaningful to me and relevant to the podcast and what you're obviously doing is ecosystem scale. Businesses don't scale, like companies don't scale, in my opinion. I think that at AWS, I saw the platforms that grow exponentially are the ones that really go out of their way to empower others to build on top of them and innovate and grow that way. Like if you were to, at AWS as an example, if you were to like say, hey, you know what, I'm going to build a company and that company is going to go out directly and transform every vertical, every use case in that vertical, like it'd be impossible, right? It would take forever. And yet at AWS, that's literally what happened. Partners did that for AWS. And the way that we went about it was we went out and we found industry leaders, really big. I guess like it was years ago. I guess today you would maybe think of them as influencers or whatever, but like at an industry level. And we would go out and find those folks who really knew the industry and we would recruit them. And we would say like, hey, what do you need to transform this industry? And then that's what we built for them. I remember one of my interview questions back then was, how have you changed your industry? And that was pretty wild in terms of the scale we were talking about. You'd go in and have conversations with folks and they'd be prepared for like, what was your greatest accomplishment or like, what's your greatest weakness? And you get hit with how have you bent the curve on your entire industry? And it's like, just requires you to think in scale terms, not like incremental growth terms. And then HubSpot, of course, did that in a different context, serving millions of small and medium-sized businesses. As the company moves up market, that's changing more and more. We did that through the partner ecosystem. We went out and had lots of organizations, lots of partners that helped scale selling and servicing and innovation in ways that we could not have done that alone. We like partners have ideas, help the platform do things that HubSpot couldn't even imagine. And so like, I think again, the ecosystem helped drive scale, not the company in many instances, although obviously it takes both of them working together. And then I think that lesson has persisted profoundly in the sense of we're doubling down on that philosophy, right? Empowering both customers and experts and partners all to thrive together. We're making it like profoundly simple, as we like to say, for them to connect and grow better than ever together. Because we believe that, right? Like customers need help, partners can help them, experts can help partners. It's like, it works. Customers are growing, partners are growing, and those experts are thriving. So again, I really think the innovation that gets unlocked through the ecosystem, the scale, whether it be selling and go to market or servicing, that happens through ecosystems, not through platforms themselves.
What do you think is the common denominator there in that sort of the partners allow you to go deeper than you possibly could, or ultimately go wider, but by going deep in individual industries or individual, sort of subject matter areas? Like, what do you think is the common denominator there that allows partners to do that a company sort of can't do by themselves?
Yeah. I think what I saw firsthand was like, there's certainly the expertise, right? Like when we would go out and we would recruit industry experts, they knew every crevice of that industry. They knew the metrics that mattered. They knew how to speak that language. They had a consistent, successful track record of predicting where the industry was going. I mean, it's hard to replicate somebody incredibly bright, waking up every day and ending every day, obsessing about what's going to happen in an industry and thinking about like, how do I leverage this platform to facilitate this change that I think is possible or that I think is coming, and to do it in every industry simultaneously. It's like maybe if a company, if a platform picked one or two or something, like it's possible, but scaling in the order of magnitude of like all the industries all at once, like I think it takes an ecosystem.
You mentioned sort of already that like the interview questions that are maybe a little different if you're looking for sort of scaling an ecosystem. What are some of the strategies that you think, or that you implemented at HubSpot and that you're thinking about as you're growing profoundly, that are the difference between an ecosystem strategy, right? Like what are some of the things that you need to be doing to be successful there? And what are some of the sort of gotchas of, maybe this will catch you out if you're really trying to take that approach and scale quickly?
Yeah. For anybody building an ecosystem or thinking about building like a partner program, whether it's solution or app partners, I think like the first thing for us at HubSpot that was the major unlock was like just realizing that partners drove massive scale and value, like beyond just sourcing deals. I think that's a popular motivator for a lot of organizations to consider starting a partner program. It's like, I've got this thing, I need more people with access to possible end users, like knowing about my thing and selling my thing. I think, and certainly that adds value. I think for HubSpot, it was looking beyond that, right? And just realizing all the other ways in which a partner added value to the customer experience and made it great. Of course, like at HubSpot, I mean, Yamini knew this. Obviously, she's got a background in partners and everything. It took really like institutionalizing that though across the company and the culture that was the real unlock. It wasn't until the organization said like, oh, partners actually, it's more than sourcing opportunities. It's like, wow, they get customers using what they bought, optimizing their investments, growing, identifying new ways to leverage HubSpot. And again, like partners obsess about this stuff, right? Experts obsess about how they can get their customers on the platform, optimizing the platform to truly grow. That impact is pretty profound. And I think that matters. It was just sort of recognition of that, like not stopping at pipeline. Given that recognition, being a good partner to your partners. As you're going out and building a partner program, you really need to focus on how do you remove friction and amplify their impact. If you're taking an ecosystem-led approach or a partner-led approach, you want to understand how they're driving value, and then what can you do to remove friction from the flywheel? What resources can you put in place to maximize their success, which ultimately benefits, your customers and you. So the way that we did that at HubSpot was we launched programs like partner scaled onboarding as an example to get more customers working with more partners, accreditations to make it easier for customers to find partners who did certain things and so on. I think all of that mattered a lot, and it strengthened the ecosystem, it improved the customer experience, and ultimately like helped HubSpot grow.
How do you think about the trade-off, especially when it comes to culture, the distinction between this is something we're doing for partners and it's valuable to partners and partners need this or want this or it's sort of helpful for them, versus we still have this group of direct customers. You essentially have two customers, right? And if you're really going to take an ecosystem approach, like how do you not do something that is good for one but not good for the other? How do you think about that sort of motion, or is it okay to just treat them as separate entities?
It's a great question. Fortunately, I think for me, most of the time, our partners were all customers, right? They were all using HubSpot anyway. I never felt like we were making a trade-off between like, do we do something for customers or do we do it for partners? Ultimately, if it's good for customers, it's good for everyone. Partners were aggregators of customer sentiment and customer need. If you talk to one partner, it's like talking to dozens of customers because they're talking to customers each and every day. And so they often, what I found was like they're advocating for the stuff customers wanted anyway. And they're frankly like, because many of them are technical and very business oriented, like they're able to articulate their needs in a much more effective way than customers might have been, right? Which might sound funny, but like when you get into that motion and you observe it firsthand, they're able to say like, the customer used these words to describe this thing. Here's what they actually meant. And this is what we should go build, and it will do what they're asking. That's, I think, customers, again, and the ecosystem, providing scale and massive opportunity to platforms in unique ways. One of the benefits of ecosystem-led growth, in my opinion.
It's interesting. I've certainly seen that firsthand too, that the partners are sort of always pushing what's possible within their given, whether you want to call it a niche or vertical, like sort of what are the thing that they're obsessing about with their clients, right? They're always trying to push what's possible. They're sort of a little bit ahead on the platform specifics of the problems they're trying to solve versus their customers much more on the business side, or they're hiring a partner because they don't want to think about that or don't, have the time to dedicate to that specifically. So the partner is able to sort of try to match up what does the business actually need with what can the platform do.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting. The partners sort of push like where the partner is versus where the customer is, who's hired that partner, are sort of drastically different thing. Yeah, sort of a big gap in there.
Yeah, totally. I also think one of the fun, sometimes challenging, but very fun aspects of having an ecosystem and a partner program is like, if the platform's like, we want to do this thing, but we're not quite there yet. Like we have other priorities or like whatever. Partners are like, I'll do it. And they'll just go out and build the thing that needs to be built.
Right.
And again, I think that's part of what's so fun about it all. They make the platform do things that no one would have thought of or didn't have the daylight or moonlight to make it do. Take Supert as an example. Hopefully it's okay to share, but like incredible things happening via Supert on the HubSpot platform. It's just a good example of innovation that probably wouldn't have happened absent an ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good example of the difference between platform that needs to be horizontal to reach that sort of level of scale versus this vertical specific solution or implementation of that platform, right? And Supert is a good example of a tool that allows HubSpot to be both. When you partner a tool with a partner who has that deep vertical expertise, they can really configure it the way that they want to, that a platform at HubSpot scale just couldn't invest. They couldn't invest in any one vertical that much to actually build it into the product.
Yeah. And I applaud like Karen and the ecosystem team at HubSpot, like opening up the platform, building for the ecosystem, being transparent on what HubSpot's going to do versus what they're not going to do. And, they're looking for the ecosystem to lead. Bravo, right? That's what you want in terms of a leader at a platform and being a really good partner to your partners. That the partners can invest and innovate with confidence, that they're not going to do a thing and then immediately get eclipsed by the platform.
Yeah, I think it's a good transition into the next topic that I want to get into because I think it's everywhere at the moment. But I think especially in the HubSpot ecosystem, as you're thinking about all facets of the HubSpot ecosystem, right? Both the platform itself, the tool, the things that you can do with that product, and also how it's impacting partners and the experts and businesses you're working with it profoundly. But that's, of course, AI's impact on the work, impact on the HubSpot ecosystem. And so what does that mean for folks in every facet of the ecosystem and what it's actually going to take to be successful and continue to grow better in the HubSpot ecosystem?
Yeah. I think first with AI, the thing that I would say is I hope everyone is paying attention, right? Like I think you and I and many others are in somewhat of an echo chamber where like we understand the impact that this is having and will have and has already had. I'm shocked every day at the customers that I talk to who are not using it. I don't even know how that happens at this point, but from an expert standpoint, I hope everyone is paying attention. I hope everyone is refactoring their skills. We've got lots of resources within Profoundly. So that's the first thing that I have to say. It's like a PSA to whoever's listening, which if they're listening to this podcast, I'm sure you're across it, but my God. I think from a HubSpot ecosystem perspective, like as I think about it, I think that there's a window right now, a moment where partners and experts can help companies refactor for AI. I think like some partners, some experts are still doing what they've been doing, and that's great. And again, lots of customers not using AIs. That's the level I would expect. Kind of surprising, but like that's still happening. And okay, good. Be preparing for the next wave, of course. And I think there's this opportunity for partners and experts right now to like be one of the organizations that helps those customers rethink things like workflows and building agents and embedding AI into their daily operations. Like there's this moment where there's still a need for that, but I don't think that that's measured in years. I think it's pretty short. HubSpot, the platform, AI itself will do a lot of that for the customer, and it will be so easy and so intuitive that you won't need a partner or an expert to do it. I think when you jumped into your first time using ChatGPT or whichever your tools of choice are, it was immediately intuitive. And like the value was like immediately obvious. Instantly made you 10x more productive, it feels like. And I think that we should expect more of that. I think like soon AI, like now, AI is just making what used to require humans, like whether it's implementation or configurations or workflows or whatever, like it's going to do a lot of that. It's already doing a lot of that, and it will continue to do that because so much of what the ecosystem historically, right, has done is like repeatable work, and like these things that they're tasks, like they're difficult, they require lifting, but like they're not particularly differentiated, right? And there's a lot of them, or there has been, and that's what one of the things that AI is so good at. And so the ecosystem's going to have to evolve and like figure out if that's not what customers are going to need anymore. How do I refactor for what they need? Going from doing the work like we had, right, do it for me sort of services to like, how do you design the systems that do the work for the customer forever? Like, are you going to be one of the facilitators of those things or not? So that, I think that's going to be a pretty massive transformation in the ecosystem.
Yeah, you could say it's kind of a profound shift.
Right.
I definitely agree with that. If it's a thing where it was previously about picking the thing up, it's going to be about configuring the constraints and the requirements on picking that thing up instead. And I think that what's going to become interesting is it's the same as sort of the first wave of automation, right? It's now possible to do a lot more stuff a lot quicker, which means it's also possible to do a lot more stuff a lot quicker in the wrong direction. And I think that there's going to continue to be an opportunity for the sort of the curator or the facilitator of the strategy and continue to make sure that things are in alignment, which will be interesting to see how quickly businesses shift to that model, because I think that there's going to be a lot of change in the product itself, which will sort of just, like you say, remove the need to click buttons and do things that were previously steps in a workflow that you had to actually go do.
Yeah, totally. I think one of the things, like, I'm sure you caught Dharmesh recently posted on LinkedIn AirOps, AI RevOps. I remember, at AWS when the concept of DevOps kind of emerged, and like being in the room when those concepts were fleshed out in frameworks and how transformative it was. I mean, just how it was being done on-prem and refactoring for the cloud, and now like refactoring for AI. It's like wild to think about. Everything's moving faster and faster. So it may not be years or months even when we have a fully fleshed out point of view on what AirOps framework is, but like that's a huge unlock. Like having a mental model, a framework for like, here's the team that you need to have in your organization to enable you to go out and sort of scale massively using AI now as one of the tools in your toolbox. Incredible. And like maybe that's an opportunity for partners, right? Just like RevOps has been. But yeah, I'm excited about it.
I think it's going to be interesting to see the extension of that and what does it mean. I think seeing organizations get more intentional about this is a thing that can be taken care of by AI, and there is a workflow here, there is an agent here, there is a system that we can build and implement here, and this is a thing that has to remain human.
Yeah.
Sort of the connection between those two, I think, will always be the secret sauce to companies, right? It's like, how far can you push things, and where is there much more value in that human connection that is never going to go anywhere until we have AI agents interacting with agents?
Yeah. The person that I worked for at AWS, Mike Clayville, incredible leader. One of the things that I remember him saying often was, there's never been a more exciting time to be alive. He truly believes it. It's so true. Look at all of the things that are becoming possible. And like, I don't know, just for a second, it's really exciting. Never before you've been able to have all these questions and immediately get answers, learn and grow and like all these things in the moment. I'm really excited to see the day perhaps when each organization does have an AirOps leader who is like, listen, I understand this business. I understand what we're attempting to do. I know the systems. I know AI. And like, they're the trusted advisor that the organization goes to your point, to say like, what can be human or what should be human, and what should we do through AI? Like, it will be that RevOps leader who does that. Like, wow.
How different, you sort of started out here with one of the guiding mission, the guiding sort of why for a company. And for you at AWS, that was, the ability to rapidly accelerate cancer research in clinical trials. How different does this moment sort of now feel than sort of what became possible with cloud and elastic compute and that sort of moment then at AWS? Like, how tight are the parallels?
Yeah, I think it's even more exciting now. Like, it was exciting then. I think the first time I used ChatGPT, you instantly got a sense of the magnitude of this thing. And we have, within Profoundly in the community, we have ongoing conversations about lots of things, AI being one of them. That thread of the things that these AI engineers are doing every day, every hour of every day, brand new things that have never been possible before. From that to really hard stuff that people don't enjoy doing, but have been completely automated through AI. I'm really excited about what's happening and also terrified because, like, again, PSA, I'm like, people, I worry about people. Like, you have to sort of, don't let this like wash over you. But yeah, I think it's a really, really exciting time. I'm really excited to see what happens.
Final question for you. For somebody who is in the HubSpot ecosystem today, who is sort of not at the forefront, like, he hasn't sort of yet built AI into their business, hasn't yet sort of started like actually applying things to their business, what's sort of the first place that you're like, this is the direction that you would be heading? And maybe you alluded to it already with some of this almost like AI transformation type stuff, but like, what's sort of the first thing that you'd be looking at if you're in the HubSpot ecosystem trying to grow and figure out what is the next, call it 6 months, who knows how fast we're going here with AI, but what's the first thing that you're looking at?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think if you're not thinking about how does customer X or industry X leverage AI to transform and grow, like, you're not doing your job. Like, that's just sort of where we're at the moment. Good client service, like, if you really believe that, like, that's why you're doing this, which the good ones I think do. If you're not obsessing about like where things are headed on behalf of your customers and prospects, like, that's a problem. I think that it's that in a nutshell, and it means so many things for different industries and different customers, different segments and so on, different applications, whether it's designing agents or like refactoring systems or whatnot. Like, that's it. You got to be thinking about that. You have to be thinking about that. That's where I would start. And, beyond specializing and choosing an industry or a niche or what have you, to apply that thinking to, like, that's what I would advocate for.
So thank you so much for doing this. And I've seen a lot of scale, a lot of ecosystem learnings. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode in the Built for HubSpot series. If you'd like to see more of this, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on YouTube, or subscribe to Built for HubSpot on Substack. See you in the next episode.